So this is my 22-week pregnancy update for you. For those who don't know, I am pregnant, and I thought this would be a great video for my family to kind of follow up on because I had moved about 10 months ago from the East Coast to the West Coast, and so it'll be a great update for them too. I mean, there's only so much text messages and phone calls you can do, so I wanted to kind of make a video. This video is going to be about my first and second trimester, my triumphs, kind of like milestones, cravings, symptoms, and weight gain. In a separate video, I did want to do being plus size and pregnant and just some differences that I kind of find. And if I can manage enough courage, I'll do a fertility journey. But again, that's just going to be kind of depending on my feelings towards that. So let's jump right into how we found out that we were pregnant. My husband was actually overseas, and again, I had moved here. I left my family of the East Coast. I never moved away from my home state or my hometown, ever. And so we had moved all the way to the Northwest region. And so, when my husband left to go for business and travel internationally, I was alone, and right before he left, I thought things were going to happen that month, that I was going to get a cycle. I just had kind of symptoms and everything. So he had left a few days later. This would have been around Friday. Thursday, I thought something was happening because I was spotting, but it wasn't, and it seemed very normal, you know, that everything was right on cue, but it stopped. This was on Thursday it started. It went to Friday, but it just didn't get any more or change. And at this point, nothing was really coming out, and it's completely stopped on Friday. Now, because of my fertility journey, I worked really hard to actually get a period and keep a period. And so for me, this wasn't very normal. I had an instance where I actually had a clot, and it was coming out all month. So I kind of was fearful that maybe there was a cyst or a clot or some like a medical condition. Pregnancy really didn't cross my mind at all, not even one time. And that's this guy in the background. So I actually, on Saturday, I was getting a little nervous because, man, I really didn't want anything to be wrong in that area. And I was really, you know, you could probably break my arm, but if I feel like there's like a womanly problem, like that is stat. So I had new insurance and everything, so I called the nurse's line, and they told me like where I could go for that Monday, and she said, "Are you pregnant?" And I clearly was like, "No, my husband's, away, and I just, that's not a possibility, I don't think." And so she said, "Take a pregnancy test before you go, but here's some, clinics and things that are open for you for Monday." And the reason I wanted to do that is because I was just not comfortable being alone. I really wanted to make sure that I was okay. Monday, September 21st, I'll never forget the day. At 7:30 a.m., I took a pregnancy test. And when I took it, I just kind of took it really fast because I was trying to figure out, how to get to I was new to the area, and that's another thing. We had actually just moved about 3 weeks prior to my husband leaving for his trip, and so I didn't know where anything was, and everything had to be like planned out, and nothing was really simple. So took the pregnancy test very quickly. It was positive, and I immediately said to myself, like, you peed on it too much. Like, you're just like, this isn't possible. So I took a second one, and it came up positive, and I really paid attention to the directions because, when you're trying for so long, you kind of know the directions pretty well. And it came up positive, and I kind of was in shock. I know I kind of put my hand on my mouth and started to shake and scream out a little bit, and I was bending over, near the bathtub to look at it, and I was just in really just the biggest shock I ever thought in my life. So that's how I found out. I called my husband. He really didn't believe it because, when you're trying for so long, you always think you're pregnant. You always think, you know, you just kind of think that you're always pregnant because you're trying so hard, and it's the hope that kind of brings you together. So that's how I found out that I was pregnant, and it was amazing. And then immediately the first trimester hit me about 2 weeks after that, and I was really sick and alone and afraid, and it was the greatest moment of my life, but it was spent isolated, and it was hard for me to eat anything, and it was difficult for me to keep my head up a lot, and I was just feeling really queasy all day at work, and I couldn't really eat much. And I just remember the first trimester just being well worth it now, but looking back, it was not easy at all. I had a very difficult time, and as soon as I found out I was pregnant, immediately it went from this amazing moment to, excuse me, absolute fear. And it drove me absolutely crazy how scared I was, and warranted, of course, but just really afraid of the unknown. And my husband came back, and it did get a lot better because he made me breakfast in bed, and I was able to, he packed my lunch, and he bought me, you know, whatever we thought would make me feel better. And so my first trimester, even though I'm so happy it's over, it wasn't the worst. I mean, I never actually physically got vomited, but I felt like I was going to until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It was just really horrible times, and well worth it though. So then the second trimester hit, and I did feel a little bit better. I got a good midwife, and I think we tried to hear the heartbeat around 10 weeks, and we tried and tried for like 5 minutes, and it wasn't there, and she had pumped me up so I wasn't freaking out about it. And then 12 weeks and like a few days came. It was like 12 weeks 3 days or 12 weeks 4 days, and my husband was with me, and we heard the heartbeat. And honestly, I couldn't cry, even though I thought I would, because I was in such relief that my emotions were really on high, and so I wasn't able to have any other emotions besides shock and relief, because I had built this up so high, and I was so scared. And to hear his heartbeat, I just was so happy, and I just couldn't even smile. I was just like, I just froze. I ended up crying about an hour later, like sobbing. But during that moment, everything was fine. The baby was okay, and my husband was happy, and everything was fine. And that was definitely a big, big, huge milestone. And then my life kind of took a turn for the worse. Something really devastating happened in our life that we're still not okay with, and we still haven't come back yet from. And I literally laid in bed for 5 weeks of my pregnancy, and I felt so ashamed and so guilty, and I didn't know how to process what was happening, and I didn't know what to do. And I always thought of myself as a strong person, and definitely a strong woman. And I was at a point in my life where I did not know what direction to take, and being pregnant just kind of put a different spin on everything. And we got through it, and we're still getting through it. But during that time, I just couldn't move. And I felt really ashamed, because here I am pregnant, and there's so many things I wanted to do. Go out, walk around, get some fresh air, make sure I eat good food, get plenty of rest. And I wasn't doing any of that because I was trying to process kind of like what happened. And so went to my midwife at about 16 and a half weeks, almost 17 weeks, and kind of just spilled it to her, because I didn't want to worry my family or worry anybody else about it. And she kind of made me feel a lot better about how I was taking it and processing what had happened. And so I kind of felt relief, honestly, that it was normal. And even though I felt guilty about it, it was the love that I had for my child that made me feel that way. But, you know, everybody needs to process things differently, and that's just how I was able to handle the situation. So I'm going to actually come back for part 2, and we'll go over the rest of my update. So hope to see you soon.